There was a moment when it looked like Lamar Jackson had made the biggest mistake of his career. No agent, no long-term contract, no guaranteed security, just a superstar quarterback walking into one of the most dangerous negotiations in modern NFL history alone. And the scary part, the entire league seemed ready to let him fail. For years, Lamar had already been doubted. People said he couldn't throw, said his style wouldn't last, said running quarterbacks eventually break down. But after winning an MVP and becoming the face of the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar made a decision that shocked the football world. He bet on himself. He rejected security. He gambled on his own value. And for a while, it looked like that gamble was collapsing in real time. Because the deeper Lamar pushed into contract negotiations, the stranger things became. Teams stayed silent. Owners refused to move. Critics attacked him daily. And suddenly, one of the most electrifying players in football found himself trapped in a battle bigger than money. This wasn't just about a contract anymore. It became a fight over control, respect, and whether the NFL was willing to fully embrace a player like Lamar Jackson. But what makes this story so fascinating is that the gamble almost destroyed everything he built, and yet somehow it may have changed his legacy forever. Before Lamar Jackson ever entered contract negotiations, he was already fighting skepticism. Even coming out of college, many NFL analysts didn't view him as a true quarterback. Some scouts openly suggested he switch positions entirely: wide receiver, running back, anything except quarterback. To them, Lamar's speed was undeniable, but his style didn't fit the traditional image of an NFL passer, and that doubt followed him into the league. When the Baltimore Ravens drafted Lamar in 2018, many people believed he was a project rather than a franchise cornerstone. But what happened next completely shattered expectations. Once Lamar became the starter, Baltimore transformed overnight. Defenses couldn't handle his speed, improvisation, and unpredictability. He wasn't just winning games, he was changing how football looked on Sundays. Then came 2019, an MVP season that felt almost unreal. Lamar threw for over 3,000 yards, rushed for over 1,000, and led the Ravens to a dominant regular season. Suddenly, the same people who doubted whether he could even play quarterback were watching him become the most exciting player in football. But here's what's important. Even during his rise, the doubts never fully disappeared. Critics still questioned whether his style could last long term. They argued that mobile quarterbacks eventually slow down. They said playoff defenses would eventually figure him out. And most importantly, there were quiet questions about whether teams were truly comfortable building around a player who broke every traditional quarterback mold. That tension became critical later, because when Lamar's contract negotiations started, it became clear that some people still didn't fully value him the way they valued more traditional quarterbacks, and Lamar knew it. That's part of why he decided to bet on himself in the first place. In today's NFL, superstar players almost always hire agents to handle contract negotiations. Agents protect players financially, manage public pressure, and create leverage behind the scenes. Especially for quarterbacks signing massive extensions, agents are viewed as essential. Lamar Jackson chose a different path. He represented himself, and immediately the football world treated it like insanity. Analysts questioned whether he understood the business side of football. Critics claimed he was hurting himself financially. Others suggested NFL owners would never negotiate seriously with a player representing himself. The narrative quickly shifted from Lamar the superstar quarterback to Lamar the inexperienced negotiator. But from Lamar's perspective, this wasn't just about saving agent fees, it was personal. For years, people had doubted his intelligence as a quarterback. They doubted his ability to read defenses, doubted whether he could lead a franchise, and doubted whether his style could survive. So when he entered negotiations without an agent, it felt like another way of proving he could control his own destiny. Still, the timing was terrifying, because Lamar wasn't just negotiating during a normal quarterback market. He entered negotiations right after Deshaun Watson received a fully guaranteed contract from the Cleveland Browns. That deal changed everything. Suddenly, every elite quarterback had a new benchmark, and Lamar wanted something close to it. That's when the situation became dangerous, because NFL owners had already decided, whether publicly or privately, that Watson's contract should never happen again, which meant Lamar wasn't just negotiating for himself anymore. He had unknowingly walked into a league-wide power struggle. What happened next shocked many fans. Instead of teams aggressively pursuing Lamar, the market became strangely quiet. The Ravens placed the non-exclusive franchise tag on him, theoretically allowing other teams to negotiate with Lamar directly. In theory, this should have created chaos. A former MVP quarterback entering the market in his prime should have sparked bidding wars across the NFL. But it didn't. Team after team publicly or quietly showed little interest, and that silence became one of the most uncomfortable moments in recent NFL history. Fans started asking dangerous questions. Why weren't quarterback-needy teams making aggressive offers? Why did it feel like the league was avoiding Lamar altogether? Some believed owners were colluding to prevent another fully guaranteed contract. Others argued teams were simply afraid of Lamar's injury history and playing style. But regardless of the reason, the message felt brutal. The market wasn't valuing Lamar the way many expected. And for Lamar personally, this was the nightmare scenario. Because betting on yourself only works if the market responds. Instead, he found himself isolated, criticized, questioned daily on television and social media. Every missed negotiation became a headline. Every rumor became fuel for debate. Was Lamar asking for too much? Was he overestimating his leverage? Or was the league exposing deeper biases about how it values certain quarterbacks? The uncertainty became suffocating. And perhaps the most dangerous part was this. Every day without a deal increased the risk. One injury, one bad season, one decline in performance, and the generational wealth Lamar was chasing could disappear forever. That's the terrifying reality of betting on yourself in the NFL. Unlike guaranteed sports contracts in leagues like the NBA, football careers can change instantly. Every snap carries risk. Every hit matters. And Lamar was gambling with all of it. As negotiations dragged on, the conversation around Lamar became more emotional than analytical. It stopped being just about football. People started attacking his decision-making, his intelligence, even his leadership. Critics constantly pointed to the lack of an agent as proof he was mishandling the situation. Some analysts framed him as stubborn or unrealistic. Others openly questioned whether he truly understood the business side of the NFL. And this is where the story becomes deeper than contracts. Because Lamar wasn't just fighting for money anymore, he was fighting for respect. For years, quarterbacks who fit the traditional mold often received the benefit of the doubt. But Lamar always seemed forced to prove himself repeatedly, even after accomplishments that should have ended the debate long ago. That pressure became exhausting, and yet Lamar never publicly panicked. He kept training, kept speaking carefully, kept projecting confidence even while the football world debated his future every day. But behind the scenes, the stakes were enormous, because if this gamble failed, it wouldn't just affect his finances, it could permanently damage how teams viewed him moving forward. The NFL moves fast. Narratives become reality quickly. A player seen as difficult or too expensive can suddenly lose leverage overnight. Lamar understood that, but he also understood something else. If he gave in too easily, he might spend the rest of his career wondering whether he should have fought harder for his own value. Eventually, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens reached an agreement, and while it wasn't the fully guaranteed contract many expected him to chase endlessly, it still became one of the richest deals in NFL history. But the ending doesn't erase how dangerous the journey really was, because Lamar came incredibly close to losing leverage, public support, and potentially hundreds of millions of dollars if things had gone differently. One serious injury during negotiations could have changed everything. One failed season could have weakened his position permanently. That's what makes this story so compelling. Most players avoid risk whenever possible. Lamar embraced it, and even though the process became messy and uncomfortable, it revealed something powerful about him. He wasn't willing to simply accept whatever the market decided his value should be. He challenged the system directly, even if it meant standing alone against enormous pressure. And maybe that's why this story matters beyond football. Because betting on yourself sounds inspirational when it works, but what people rarely talk about is how terrifying it feels while you're doing it. The uncertainty, the criticism, the possibility of failure hanging over everything. Lamar lived through all of it publicly, and in the end, whether people agreed with every decision or not, he forced the NFL to confront uncomfortable questions about quarterback value, player leverage, and how power truly works in the league. Lamar Jackson didn't just negotiate a contract, He challenged the system. He challenged the idea that players must always follow the traditional path. He challenged the pressure to stay quiet, hire representation, and accept whatever structure the NFL prefers. And for a moment, it looked like that challenge might cost him everything. That's what makes this story unforgettable, because Lamar's gamble wasn't safe. It wasn't calculated perfection. It was risky, emotional, uncertain, and that's exactly why people became so fascinated by it. In a league built on control, Lamar tried to take some of that control back for himself. And whether you think he won or lost the negotiation, one thing became impossible to ignore. He refused to let others define his value. And maybe that's the real reason this story still resonates today. Not because of the contract numbers, but because of what it revealed about pressure, belief, and the terrifying cost of betting on yourself when the entire world is watching.